Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Got a new cut, feeling like a new man. Got my boy here, Mr. John Tran,
How you doing, sir?
and got some big. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Like I said, I'm feeling good, and I want to talk to you about a couple things. First off, we're going to start this video speaking on the Big 12 news. We finally did something. We've been we're we're like weekend at Bernie's over here, right? And we finally did something. We're gonna go the announcement of 9+1, 9 conference games, one out of conference game. I want to get Trans thoughts on that. And then at the end of the video, please stay all the way through the video. We're going to talk about a thing we've identified that no one is talking about within the Texas football community that we think is really make or break for this 2020 season if we have the opportunity to play it. Now, before I get to Tran, make sure you are subscribing. We have been at 999 people on Instagram, all the social medias. Subscribe to YouTube. Hit us on Twitter. We're growing on Twitter. I appreciate everybody showing love and putting us in the Texas community. Twitter Texas community is very, very strong.
Hmm.
Instagram, y'all do your thing, and most importantly, subscribe here on YouTube. Mr. Tran,
Yes, sir.
when are we going to start the season, man? Are you excited now for an opener? Let me ask you this: Are you pro UTEP or pro USF? Like, where are you falling in this whole
Uh,
COVID
I,
craziness?
I mean, honestly, I don't care. I just want to kick off the season. I don't care if it's UTEP, USF, UCF. They're all getting dropped. First game. Like I just want to see I want to see them put out good tape. I've been seeing a lot of good workout tapes that they've
Sure.
videos, things like that. Teams looking good. When we did the weight video, I liked all the weights that I was seeing. Looks like they're putting in a lot of hard work. I definitely am glad that we are having at least one non-conference game to have kind of like a little tune-up game without going against each other because going scrimmaging against each other. You guys know the plays regardless of anything. You can't
Yeah.
really. Uh, there's going to be the guys that the practice squad guys that know what's coming, so they want to try to make themselves look better, and they're going to run right to the spot.
Hey, I
Yeah.
my coach. Just real sidebar, real quick, because you just brought up something that reminds me of my high school football days, and I hate to be the high school, blah blah blah, especially since you played college football. But our coach used to call those people scrimmage heroes.
Yep.
Like the dude, it's like, man, you're supposed to be replicating what this guy on the other team's doing. Don't just run there because you know the freaking
Yes.
play. Like trying because they're over here already pissed off that they're not running with the ones or the twos, right? So now it's like, you know what? I'm gonna beat my man. And it's like that's not what they're gonna do in the game, and that hurts the team. Scrimmage
It,
heroes.
it, it
Anyway,
also
go
it
back
also
to
throws off timing as well, like between the
absolutely.
quarterback. So it actually in the end, a lot of times it affects the team than it does help them. But yeah, no. I mean, we get to see they get to hit against different people. You get to see a little bit more aggression than play. Get out there and just have fun and get all the rust off. Because it's gonna be a long time between games. I mean, the last time we played was New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
so a legitimate game. And coming into an atmosphere where it's not going to be like an opening game atmosphere, even if it is at top end 50% capacity, they're still going to be excited to play, but it's still going to be a little bit harder to get prepared for it. And just the fact of playing a team that's not in our conference and getting us prepared for our conference, getting those cobwebs out in front of that, getting getting ready for 50% capacity all across Big 12 competition. It's so much beneficial than just jumping into a conference season.
To your point that you made earlier regarding the rust, that also factors in because we didn't have spring ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even spring ball is perfect how they do that in college football because it does give them that opportunity of game day. There's so many things to it, right? Game day atmosphere. kind of a bowl setting when you have like the however many practices that leads up to the big spring day, and you want to be able to show out. Even though it's a scrimmage setting, it's still an event, right? And it's the
Mm-hmm.
feeling of an event. Fans are the, and it's sometimes our first look at some of the players we're really, really excited to see. So not having that is big. Not having that is also big because the roster didn't really ratio itself. Like everyone that's still around, like it, even the people that were jumping in and out of the portal, whether it was Denzel Okafor, Anthony Cook, or Juwan Mitchell at one point, like, and some of those people are expected to play significant amount of snaps, but no one really. I mean, the transfer portal didn't get hit the way it normally does, and have that back and forth attrition. Now we will see what happens with our friends over out west in the Pac-12, but that's another video for another day. And how that portal looks in a little bit. But in terms of just overall, like right now, going into fall camp, if nobody hits the portal like that, that means everybody on the roster feels like, hey, yeah, we love being here, and we feel like we're a part of something special, but we feel like individually, I feel like I'm going to play, right, or have a chance to like I'm not behind. I don't know where I necessarily stand the way you typically do coming out of the spring, where the coaches can even get real with you and be like, look, barring injury, you're behind, bro. Like just being candid, right?
Regardless, can I piggyback off the injury thing?
Yeah.
With a shortened off season like this, there's a likelihood of a lot of people getting injured. So the fact that a lot of
Or
these
if
people,
guys
a
test
lot of these
positive.
kids, yeah, a lot of these kids changing their mind, that helps us out a lot. Like Anthony Cook, when he's suddenly appeared back on campus,
Right. Right.
it's fantastic
He's
because now we
needed.
have we have a
Yes.
4-star right there
Yes. He's
who has
needed.
game experience. Yeah,
He's needed. He's played enough football. He's now a veteran. And like you said, we couldn't stay healthy last year to save our lives, especially in that position group. And B, we don't know what this landscape's going to look like when people start testing positive and all of a sudden so-and-so can't play against Kansas State or so-and-so can't come with us to Dallas. All right, we are going to need more bodies. You see MLB, I made the video talking about what are we going to learn from Major League Baseball? What will we ultimately learn from the NFL? Well, hey, they got to increase their rosters. We need more people. And, with less time, more time in the classroom, less time on the field overall since New Year's, injuries theoretically are probably going to go up, to your point. So very curious to see how this plays out. Now, in relationship to this 10-game season that we'll see, what's your thoughts just in general of conference-only football? Do you think that could ultimately change the landscape of college football in general? And I asked you that because I was listening to Greg McElroy and Danny Cannell talk about it, and some of these teams that kind of are somebody over in College Station that loaded up the schedule with some FCS and weaker opponents, to try to ease into things. There's
they
really
don't
only
have
one
that
game.
anymore. Yeah.
There's no more easing into anything, right? There's no more hiding. There's no more let's play Chattanooga before we play Auburn, right? Or the Citadel. Now it's just straight all the way through. And the question that they had, and I'll ask this question to you. The question they had is, do you think that can change the appetite of college football fans to where they no longer want to see those type of games? Because kind of like the NBA bubble right now, right? Where you have the 8 shitty teams gone and it's 22 great
I
teams, and now we're seeing
don't
better quality.
I don't mind those because some of those schools, they need the money,
Yes.
and I think UTSA is losing out on like $1.5 million from not playing us. Is that correct? I think that's
You mean
around the
USF?
USF. It's
Yeah.
one of those teams. UTEP. I know UTSA is losing money out from not playing A&M.
Oh, gotcha.
1.5 million.
Gotcha.
And they need that money. I mean,
Yes.
to
Especially
compete.
now.
And I don't mind that people do schedule cupcakes at the beginning of the schedule. I just don't like it where
It's October.
Yeah, I have Alabama, then I have a bye, then I want to play. I'll schedule my cupcake now, and then I'll play LSU. So I'm just I have 2 weeks, basically 2-3 weeks to prep for LSU between the things. That you're going to see. I would be very shocked if even Alabama goes undefeated if they have to play this heavy of a schedule, because it's really hard to get up for every single game
Yeah.
for a conference opponent, and especially when Alabama's going to have the target on their back. It's everyone. They're going to get everyone's best game, and it's really hard to have that mindset over and over again.
I want to make a video, or we'll either do a video or a live with our some of our buddies who are diehard SEC fans. Many of them have appeared at several times on this channel, and I want to have more of a roundtable discussion on this, because I think it
Yeah,
is fair to get their
understand, but
opinions.
that people don't understand that we're SEC fans too. Like we love
Yeah,
good football.
I agree. I love SEC
Yeah.
football. I have no problem with them, but I think as great as they are and the great players they produce, they get a pass on certain things, or not playing a certain amount of conference games that other people are playing. And I don't think that, are they necessarily A plus creme de la creme, unstoppable every single year. The SEC East was down for a minute and nobody said anything, but the SEC West was carrying the bag, or in some years, Alabama was carrying the bag for the
Mm-hmm.
whole conference, and they got that, they got that pass. Are they the best conference? Unequivocally, yes, in my opinion. However, it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see, whether it's them, Big Ten, whatever, how they navigate that with all these teams, and the level of competition that will be expected at those schools. So, and even ours now in the Big 12, I do think we do a better job of, once we start conference play, we're kind of locked in as a conference, and that's kind of where we keep things. And so that's not a big shift. It's just, like you said, kind of shaking off that rust. Especially with the later start. Like, we may not start our season potentially till September 19th. We also hear our interim president, Jay Hartz, will come out and say they're still trying to monitor what's going on in pro sports, MLB, maybe potential best practices from the NFL that Greg McElroy also touched on in his interview. What does that look like in terms of, pushing things out? We heard them a couple weeks ago talking about reevaluating fan attendance from 50 to 25%. So all these things are up for question. I know you had something you wanted to touch on, though, in relationship to some of the COVID testing. We've been hearing some crazy stories, right? Like, you hear the allegations out of the Pac-12, you hear the allegations out of Colorado State. And then one of the things I know me and you have talked about a lot is not just how the players are impacted, but the people around them, including the coaching staffs.
Yeah. Recently, Doug Peterson just got diagnosed. What happens if he dies? Honestly, here, everything is going to be shut down. Everything. A major.
If you lose
Major
one,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
and he seems like he's in pretty good shape, but I mean, he is in that age level of where they're affected the most. A lot of the college coaches, I mean, we've said this multiple times, is they are at high risk. They aren't in the best of shape. You think Gary Patterson's going to survive everything? I mean,
we'll touch on Coach P on the live chat. I think we're gonna do. We'll let y'all know when the live chat is. It will be this week, but we will touch on Gary P here in a bit. But I mean, anybody, any of these guys, Mac, right? Any of the older guys, like, and it's not, again, it's not even just the death rate is one thing, but it's also the long-term ramifications. And I've touched on this many times. I feel like, I'm repeating myself over and over, but it's something I really try to drive home, that, even there was a young man on Arizona. I forgot his name, but it was he plays for Arizona, and he said, "Hey, I tested positive over the offseason." He kind of shared his story about dealing with COVID and how it personally impacted him, right? So for all the other guys that, hey, I shook it off, I'm back, blah, blah, blah. He's like, man, I lost 15 pounds. I'm still not breathing right. I'm still having issues with taste, and smell, and I'm not even back to where I was, but in my training before this situation happened, right? And so maybe he had some pre-existing conditions, and he wasn't even a lineman or anything. I'm talking about a guy, I believe, that was a position, a skill position player. So very, very interesting dynamic that all these conference commissioners, our good friend Bob Bowlesby and everybody are trying to deal with here. So schedule wise, I think we'll react more, a little bit more in depth when we know exactly what it's going to look like in terms of, okay, we're kicking off our season either at USF.
I would assume we'd
Or
probably
I mean,
hear
not
about
at
it within the
USF,
next
with
couple of
USF.
days.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case, right? Either DKR September 5th with USF, or if they get a check or we reschedule with them, and then we move on to starting the season September 19th with UTEP. I would think I was traveling this week when the SEC stuff came out. I've purposely withheld my reaction to us not playing LSU on this channel because, again, I want to have that conversation with our LSU fans just for the best content possible and really having a layered. That's a whole nother conversation within itself. But I do want to pivot here, Tran.
Wait, can we touch on the fact that, like, what are your thoughts on us being the last to react?
It's par for the course for us, man.
I was about to say that same exact phrase.
I mean, look how we handled I'm sorry, not the NCAA tournament, the Big 12 tournament. We were the last ones to take the kids off the floor. I believe that was in Kansas City. Literally days after everybody else was canceling their college basketball tournaments. And I think it just speaks to where the inevitable realignment, whatever the Power 5 schools decide to do. The realignment is happening, right? And even going into what is going on in the Pac-12 and damn near mutiny with their players and whatnot. Yeah, I'd rather have with the Big 12, the Big 12 just being, again, weekend at Bernie's asleep at the wheel and somebody's just moving the body along than what's going on over there where they may not even be able to have players. But at the same token, we don't take the lead on anything, right? We don't say, hey, like the Big 10, to me, they were the ones that set the tone, right? They set the tone early. Ivy League, the kids that are super smart, right? They were just like, and then granted, they don't have the same TV contracts, ramifications, all that type of stuff. Totally get it. But they were like, we're just not having fall sports, period, right?
Yep.
So, the Big 12 is just kind of sitting back like, yeah, we want to play with no transparency of a plan. And it kind of mirrors what we've seen from our own type of governments and stuff in this area. But even the SEC was more demonstrative.
Well, I knew for a fact we were gonna wait to see what SEC was gonna do first, because we had so many non-conference games with them that was going to be generating a lot of money for both conferences. So they were going to see what they were going to do first. We weren't going to be the first ones to react. Everyone knows that. But once we saw SEC said, hey, we're just going to kind of a 10 conference game, just keep conference games going on, that's when I kind of anticipated within the next few days we were going to say, all right, we're going to just play conference games with one kind of tune-up game for every team.
Right. I mean, look, I love the Big 12, and I'm a Big 12 defender because this is the conference we're a part of. I love Texas the most, right? Like, obviously, I'm a Texas fan. This channel's called Fanatic Perspective, but we're the we're the Fredo Corleone. Maybe not the Fredo Corleone, but Fredo before he and the Godfather before he turned on Michael. Yeah. But like in terms of just we're weak. Like in terms of how we roll. Like there's nothing demonstrative in what we do. There's even from a playoff perspective, we're the only conference that hasn't won a playoff game in college football playoffs. We've only really sent one team, which is Oklahoma.
Has Pac-12 won one?
Yeah. Remember, Oregon went to the Oregon beat Florida State.
And they went to
in the very first one, and they lost to Ohio State in the national championship game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
So everybody's got at least a dub, and if you've gotten a dub, that means you've been in the national championship game, except for us. And we've been, after Texas and Oklahoma, the drop off in terms of power and relevance in college football that is there, and Texas hasn't been good in over a decade. So, from a credibility standpoint, Oklahoma's carrying the bag for this conference. That's it. From a power standpoint, yeah, any conference is going to take, and TV dollars, any conference will take Texas or OU. But like collectively as a conference, we always are going to wait in the room to see what Vito or Michael does, right? And so that's just the reality we have to live in. I know some people are going to come in the comments and argue with us about that, but you know, I'm only going to tell the truth on this channel, guys. And the path for realignment. Look, this whole COVID thing is exposed all the flaws of every system and every fabric of everything, right? And that includes this college football conversation, and it includes, you know, player rights, everything, right? So now it's shifting to what does the new landscape of college football look like? Because does the Power Five just leave the NCAA and say, you know what, screw it, we're gonna have our own business? Even schools like Notre Dame and BYU, look at the issues they're having right now. Now it looks like Notre Dame's going to be able to get in with the ACC, because of ties they already have there. But BYU, I feel bad for being independent. They had their own TV network, strong football program over 50 years. What do they have to show for it now? Conference only. They're left out. Now they're trying to say, well, can we play in the Big 12? Like where can we get games in, right? So college football is going to change, man. It's going to change big time.
You think a possibility of a East Coast, West Coast type of thing, like a split conferences?
I could see somebody did this before, and this is going to be really interesting how they do it. I could see them leaving the NCAA and then making 4 regions, like basically like a square, right? Or 4 squares regionally, and then just divvying it up that way. I could, and now those regions will fight over certain teams that will be on the borderline, right? And so that will become a whole another political conversation. But right now you have a playoff system that doesn't include all 5 conferences. And I'm so happy that we are at the point where we have playoffs, right? Just like we've made progress. College football changed a lot over the last 50 years, by the way. Like before we would have like co-champions.
Over the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
Like the last 15 years or whatever, 10, 15 years.
So we went from like voting for people to like trying to put them in the right bowl game to the BCS and using the computer to now we have a playoff system and we have a playoff committee that is in charge of choosing the teams that are for there, and they try to give you as much transparency as possible. Really starting, you know, after the middle of the season, you kind of know where you sit if you're in contention for that. But it's still not a system that's conducive for everybody at the Power 5 level. And I think that's only going to, if we're able to get football off this fall, and people, again, that goes into the 10-game argument, right? If we're only seeing them play against each other, the big dogs against the big dogs, in terms of all Power 5 games, the whole schedule, college football fans are going to be like, yo, why can't we just make it look more like this? Right? And so I think that's where we're headed anyway, and this is just going to be the test run. And I've said in sports, everything, use this season, use this chaos as your test run anyway. MLB, expand your playoffs. NHL, 24-game playoff, round-robin tournament, whatever, do it. I'm mad. The NBA is doing a great job, but I'm mad that they're not doing just a full-on tournament all the way through, right? Instead of still doing the conference. But I like the fact that they're doing this, right? So this is the time to experiment in general. Shake it up for this year. And because you get the data. Did this work? Or was this a disaster? And we need to just go back to what we were doing traditionally.
And it's not like if it is a disaster, it's just like, oh, this guy should be fired type of thing. It was like, no. It was like they did the best with what they were given.
Right. We were in COVID. We tried something.
Yeah. We tried to entertain you during a lack of sports around you.
Get creative. This is a time. This is going to be a time of great creation and enlightenment. Even individual sports like UFC and Fight Island and all the. This is the time to be creative. College football. Do you hear me? This is the time for innovation. To be creative. Shake it up. Go shoot. Do it. Try an 18 playoff this year. Why not? Who cares? At this point, we just want to see them play. If it, assuming everything is the protocols are in place, guys are safe, rights, all that. Assuming all the social human rights stuff is there, we want to see them play. So if you want to try 18 playoff this year, let's try it. You want to try something else? Let's do it. Like if not, and assuming we have a vaccine and the world starts to go back to normal 2021, 2022, you can always pivot back to what you had anyway. So try it. Get the data. Let's find out what it looks like. I do want to pivot though, because this is going to be an ongoing conversation when we actually see what the schedule is and the season kicks off. We'll talk about it again, and like I said, we'll have a full real reaction to the LSU and just conference only and all that type of stuff with other fans from other conferences. I do want to get into what I teased at the beginning of the video, which is what is the one thing that no one's really talking about right now that in my opinion, is make or break for the season. And I want to get your opinion on this, John, because I know we talked about this in our prep. I think people are sleeping on special teams in general for Texas. And the reason why I say this, and you know this better than me, that used to be part of our culture
Mm-hmm.
when we were really, really good. And I actually want you to speak on this, man, because I believe special teams has been somewhat underwhelming under Coach Herman. Now we are transitioning where we've talked so much as fans. Because I asked you before, I'm like, hey, what are people talking? And you made the comment, you were like, man, people are talking about everybody, right? Everywhere you go, somebody's talking about the offensive line, somebody's talking about the quarterback, and I just want you to speak on like the culture and just why we need to pay attention to that particular aspect of the game.
Well, it changes the game. Like, I know a lot of people don't believe in momentum or anything like that, but it does. It gets the team pumped. A couple of years ago when we lost, I mean, you've brought this up many times, is the turning point of our season because we had a lackluster performance against Maryland again. Then we played Tulsa, and it was just
Yeah,
was it Tulsa? It was
yeah,
Tulsa,
it was
right?
Tulsa.
It was
We
just like I
survived.
can't.
Yeah.
I was almost more disappointed in the Tulsa game that we won, and then we played USC, and we were playing them a tight game. They're kicking a field goal, block field goal, return for a touchdown, and for the next 5 games, it was like we were untouchable. It really does just it gives you a little swagger to yourself that you turn around a game when you're not playing on offense or defense. That was a badge of honor in Mac Brown's tenure. You know, people would try to do it. My brother got a finger on a punt in a scrimmage, and he got playing time because of that as a walk on. You know, it's something that gets noticed completely. Like if you make that big play, it turns around the game, gets everyone hyped. It's just like there's so much to it. I mean, you brought it to my attention. I don't know what the stat is of how many straight games that Alabama had a non-offensive scoring touchdown, but a lot of it was through special teams. Yeah, a lot of it was from the defense forcing fumbles, return for a touchdown, and interceptions. But there were quite a few times where they would return a kick, they would block a punt, they would block a field goal, return it for a touchdown. That just turns the game around. It goes from it being a tight game to, oh, look, next thing you know, it's 48-17 because this team
Absolutely.
just pumped it out.
Absolutely, man. It's one thing to me. It's a badge of honor. Like I love the fact you said it's a badge of honor, but it's also something that elevates some of the guys that don't get some of those opportunities offensively and defensively, especially when you have a deeper team. And I feel like our roster is starting to really come to a full where we are getting deeper, but we have some of these guys that are athletic freaks. And to your point earlier, you're talking about everybody likes to talk about sleepers that's one of the things within the UT community. We always love to talk about the guys we either haven't seen or we want to see more of. Well, what better way for Kenyatta Watson, who I think is going to be a fabulous corner here at Texas, and was getting a lot of love on social media today, rightfully so. Love the way the brother finished the season technique-wise at playing corner. He's one of the bigger guys, 6'1", 6'2", but they're telling me the brother has a 45-inch vert. Let's go
Jeez.
get some kicks. You know what I'm saying? Like,
is,
all
is that
right,
sta- is that standing vert, or is that
I don't.
running too? Like,
Well, I'm sure when they do their verts, I think it's like the NBA where they do the standing vert.
where they oh, I
Or
thought
what?
NBA did a run.
Oh, they did a run. I don't know.
I thought the NBA does a run.
I don't know. Somebody in the comments can
Yeah.
confirm what the procedure
I
is.
know
for that
football they do standing.
from a testing standpoint.
Yeah.
I think it's standing, but I know at the combine they do standing.
Mhm.
So, they're talking about the brother has a 45-inch vert. We talk about my new pet cat Alfred Collins and his basketball background, what he can do in the interior of from a field. He needs to be on field goal block team right off the bat, right? Like Marquez Bemmons, we talk about him power cleaning, 600 pounds or whatever, like just these crazy numbers you hear about, or squat or whatever it was. These are these. We have to figure out how to get a culture of these guys engaged. Yeah, they're going to be getting snaps offensively and defensively and involved in the game plan. But how do I get a guy like a Jordan Whittington or even a Bijan Robinson on kickoff return, and let's just go take one to the house? Because we've been too many times this last decade, we've been on the wrong side of those momentum breakers, right? I think back to the Oklahoma game this year and I love Devin Duvernay, but the one time he looked unsure as a football player was when he was on kickoff return. And I put some of that on the coaching staff because to me that tells me it's a lack of emphasis, a lack of, just attention to detail in certain situations. I shouldn't be sweating out punt safe every week. Yet here we were sweating out punt safe, making poor decisions fielding the football, making poor decisions, with not being able to secure our blocks on the edge and certain things of that aspect. And I know it's not a sexy part of the football game. And I'm not saying special teams has been trash. You know when special teams was trash? Under Charlie Strong. That was when it was a complete fiasco, okay, where we were, I remember like Oklahoma State, situation where it was block punt in multiple Oklahoma State games. The one where they come up the middle and kept blocking our extra point. It was just like, it was like laughable, right? Just flat out laughable at that of y'all don't even work on this. Do we even have a special teams coordinator?
Dixon didn't even catch one of the snaps. It hit him right in the hand and went right through.
Yeah, I mean, so we had so it went from okay, and I believe last year overall, if you look at different metrics and put the cumulative data together, we were like middle of the, maybe like slightly above middle of the pack from a special teams standpoint. But again, from a culture standpoint, I grew up on the East Coast. I saw Beamer ball, and what they did and how they flip football games. When you don't bring your A game on defense or offense that particular day, but you just need somebody to make a play or to, like you said, get that energy like we saw in the USC game, where we were able to get our hands on a football or just threaten. To me, I look at it, man, like this. There's four pillars of special teams, right? Like there's the actual return game, or returning kicks or returning punts. There's and I also include fielding the ball in that, making sure that we don't muff punts or we make poor decisions with where we catch the kickoff, things of that sort. I go to covering kicks, right? Making sure we don't give up another touchdown return to Youngblood on KSU after we just scored, stuff like that. I go to actual kick game, right? And some of these, we're going to evaluate all four of these pillars, but actual kick game, Brzezowski, Cameron Dicker, what we've seen over the last 2 years, making sure our kicks don't get blocked, making sure we're clutching the kick game, making sure we don't fumble the snap, like you said, or shanking punts. And then the fourth aspect of that, or the fourth of those pillars, is actually attacking kick game, blocking kicks, those game-changing plays where we can at least intimidate somebody into even missing a field goal. It's still college football, and a lot of these kickers are shaky, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
still kids.
Those 4 pillars, when you look at it and evaluate it, we start with kick return, right? That's been the most disappointing thing I can think of. I remember even people like Nathan Vasher just getting out there and returning stuff, or you talked about Aaron Ross being a kick returner. And I know everybody's super excited about Deshaun Jameson as a corner and the plays and the potential he has, but I was serious when I said there's no reason why he shouldn't challenge Youngblood for the return specialist, all Big 12. Because we saw when they actually put in some sort of game plan in the Utah Bowl game, the difference we saw in punt return, right? And like, oh, y'all actually worked on this. I can tell. Versus like catch the ball and like try to make something happen, right? And so I do see a difference when Jalen Waddle catches the ball. And Jalen Waddle is the best kicker, probably the best kick returner in the country right now. But when I see the way the blocks are set up and some of the things Alabama does, I can tell that they're working on it different than what we were doing. That's all I'm going to say. And there's no reason why at Texas, you mentioned this earlier about us being negative kick return stats. So up until Texas Tech, I believe we were the only country out of like 126, or the only team in the country out of like 126 schools that
Texas
was negative.
Technically is a country, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll take it.
But we were the only team in negative. At Tech, like, really? We couldn't go forward.
And to your point, most of those times we were in punt safe where we were fair catching it.
We got to do better, man. We can't have Oklahoma kick return where we're trying to catch the ball at the 2-yard line and we're like, oh, should I go? Should I fair catch? I don't know. And next thing you know, we're starting at the 10. You know why? Because people don't talk about hidden yardage enough. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. This is also me venting as a Cowboys fan too, because I saw the same nonsense in the NFL, where it's like, oh, we're just comfortable starting at the 10 or 15-yard line every time because we don't value field position. When other teams are like, you know what, I want to try to get the ball at the 30 or 35, so I'll put in the extra whatever time we need to do in practice or prep to make sure we're good at that stuff, whether it's however you want to do it. You realize the difference between that. That's 2 first downs. That's a 20-yard pass. That's 2 10-yard gains, right? Like, that makes a difference. And also myself as a play caller, if I'm Mike Yersage, right? It's a lot easier to call plays when I'm at the 35, the 45 to get into my tempo stuff than it is to call plays when I'm on my own 10.
When you're pinned, yeah.
When I'm pinned all the damn time. It makes me a better play caller, right? Or me protecting my defense. We don't think about these things enough. Even though we've had great individual performances under Tom Herman. Cameron Dicker is a very good kicker. So that pillar is almost halfway checked, right? Like, Cameron Dicker is very good at his job. Most importantly, he's clutch. Hopefully he gets to the point from a consistency standpoint where he's knocking in 85 to 90% of his kicks and continues to develop his leg strength, which we know is there, right? But that also goes into his kickoffs, right? Which have been hit or miss sometimes. That's also an important aspect. And then I want you to talk about the punter, because he's always been a concern to me. And I know we have high expectations because he's Dixon's cousin, but, what are your thoughts there just in terms of the kick game?
So from what we've seen the first 2 years is that he was inconsistent. Him shanking punts, he doesn't really have as powerful a leg as Dixon, and
No.
that's our fault as fans, is comparing the two.
Well, most punters in the NFL don't have that leg either.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I want to see. I want to see his directional accuracy. I want to see him not shank punts. And I mean, he has the ability. I mean, he's now an upperclassman, so he has the experience. I'm sure he has really good coaches over in Australia and also here. So I just want to see him just get better. Get better on being able to pin people back, like you were saying. So if we're punting from our 40-yard line, I want to see the ball at the 10 to 15 every single time, like you said. where they have their heels pinned on the 15-yard line, and if it goes over the head, it bounces. I want to see that. I want to see us
Right,
chase it
and let
down and
my
try to make a play.
athletes
Yeah,
right let my athletes fly after the ball. We have too many guys that are too athletic on this
too
football team,
fast, too smart.
too fast to be this
But
poor on special
at the
teams.
same time, if we do that, I would like our coaching staff to have a game plan to know that, he's going to be directionally kicking it to the left side of the end zone, that we're running directly there and we're looking up so we don't let it bounce into the end
Yeah,
zone.
we've
I
had
want
those
to be
problems before
prepared for
too.
that.
Right. So
No,
it
and
needs to
that's
be
not on him. That wouldn't be on the punter, but that's just on the special teams as a whole.
Tom Herman has a special teams background. You brought in Jay Boulware. Coleman Hutzler was former special teams coordinator at South Carolina. I know he's the linebackers coach and assistant defense coordinator, whatever it is. He has special teams roots. Andre Coleman made his money in the NFL as a return man. I think we saw his influence already in the bowl game against Utah. I need this brain trust this needs to be part of the fabric of our culture. Period. There's too many guys out here that are too athletic. The testing numbers are too, and I'm talking about from an interior standpoint and push and what we get up the middle, as well as my guys, whether they're gunners or whoever on the edge, making plays and forcing mistakes of our opponents. Some of these schools that aren't as athletic have made their bread and butter in this area of the game to flip those hidden yards, right? And it makes a difference in your overall makeup. And I understand special teams is very weird because all of a sudden it can be front and center in a game, and sometimes it's off to the side and guys are executing, and it doesn't work the way offense and defense do, but it's just as important. And I feel like we wouldn't be doing our due diligence as fans only talking about offense on this channel and the depth chart and who we think is going to break out and all this type of stuff, and only talking about the defense. And then we go another year where we're number 45 or number 50 in the country in those areas. Like kick return, there's no reason why we shouldn't be a top 15 team from a return standpoint. I understand with the new rules, kickoff return you're not going to get as many opportunities. But the two things I'm looking for, number one, when you do get those opportunities, are we productive with them, and do we have a better blocking scheme and better path for our kick returner and the right person back there, the right type of runner back there? Again, you have Bijan, you have Jake Smith, you have all these, Jordan Whittington, you have too many options for that to be an issue. Number two is proper discernment when you're back there. So fair catching, not fair catching, those things, and putting our players in situations where they have to make those decisions very, very quickly, especially when we go on the road. We saw this happen sometimes even at Oklahoma State, right? So we have to do a better job of making sure that those things don't beat us. Those things don't get in the way. We should be excited when we might be able to go, like somebody's backed up and they're punting and hey, who's going to go get this one? Is it going to be Kenyatta this time? Is it going to be Josh Thompson coming from the other side? Oh, maybe it's going to be Tyler Owens and his 4-3 butt coming up the pike, getting ready to send the punter's ball in the back of the end zone and flip this game like you talked about. How many times have you seen Alabama struggle, like you said, for 2-3 quarters against Mississippi State? Mississippi State, good defense, all these dudes holding down. All of a sudden they get their hands on a ball or a pass or whatever, and the game flips. And next thing you know, we're over here getting ready for the Saturday night game of the week, right? That's the impact. And I'm saying this from a position of pain, brother, because we have been on the other side of this too much. I sat here. Somebody brought up a thing on Twitter. It was the Will Smith, the entanglement photo, and it was like, what? Well, yeah. Damn, you nailed it. That exact face. And it was like, what sport moment made you feel that way? And I don't know why, because there's different emotions. Like I didn't feel that way when the Colt thing happened, right, against Alabama, even though that was a way more important game, national championship. I was more in shock. I wasn't like, at that point, because we were still, it happened so early, right? It happened right
first
away.
drive.
And it's like, well, is he coming back? Or did they take his pads off? Are we going to shoot him up? Like, we didn't know what was going on. But that Cal game,
Mm-hmm.
God bless Nick Rose, but when he misses the extra point after Gerard Hurd did he break the UT record for most yards by a quarterback in a game?
He still holds it.
So Gerard Hurd goes off, and we shank the extra point. That face, that Will Smith entanglement face, like that comes from a position of pain where I can't see stuff like that anymore. And some of the Alabama fans, maybe, did you miss the Iron Bowl when our kicker missed the field goal? Blah, blah, blah. Like, look, y'all have had way more good than moments like that. I know somebody in the comments with the recent fans that have come on here are going to bring up last year's Iron Bowl. But my point is this: it swings games. And it needs to be a point of emphasis. And if I'm asking the coaching staff to make it a point of emphasis, because we don't talk about that enough. We changed the offensive coordinator, we changed the defensive coordinator. We expect more consistency from Chris Ash. Tran, I'm assuming you expect more consistency with Mike Yursich being on board. And I heard him say that in order to win the conference, you need to be 45 and above every single week. Well, you know what? There's going to be a game or two this year where we just either woke up wrong, somebody's doing something we didn't anticipate. Tom Herman even said last year, I forgot what game it was. Maybe it was TCU. I think it was TCU game where he was like, they didn't do that they didn't do that to anybody. Like, whatever they were running, we hadn't seen, and so we had to adjust, right? And so there's going to be games where I expect better offense, but somebody's going to throw something out there that tricks us up. That's when special teams and some of these other units need to pick up the slack, right? And make a play and blow a game open.
I also would like to see our team, our defense, hold every conference opponent under 30, like they did with what's his name's first season, Tom Herman's first season. Yeah, Todd Orlando's. Yeah, we held everyone under 30 points. Everyone of our conference opponents under 30 points. If we do that, I think we'll go undefeated, honestly.
Yeah, that's a high goal. But again, that was Todd Orlando year one. We've had great success with our defensive coordinators year one, and some of this stuff.
I think that we have better players right now than
he did. I agree. But but I will say too, some of the stuff that we're talking about from a special team standpoint does translate over to the defensive side of the ball as well, and the like you brought up, non-offensive touchdowns.
Well, to your point also, is like I watch Hard Knocks as well, which is should be coming back on. One of the main things that they say, hey, the way to make it on a team is through special teams. Make a play.
One of my favorite characters from Hard Knocks of all time, I forgot his name, but it was the Jets special teams coach. And he kept walking around. It was when they did the Jets. It was when Rex Ryan was the coach. And they were
have yourself a damn snack.
They were waiting for Revis to come back, and he kept telling he was talking to some of these younger brothers, and he was like, how do you make the team, man? Special teams. He's like, that's the only thing that needs to be coming out your mouth. It's how you make a name for yourself and whatnot. And just that accountability, because it's also a melting of players that play both sides of the ball, right? Or on each side of the ball. So I just wanted to touch on that. I don't think that's getting enough attention the way it should be. At least all the previews and all the things. Again, I said this before. It's not sexy. I get it, but it could be the difference between us winning a couple more games and being in the Big 12 championship versus us being on the outside looking in. Trent, I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man.
We will make an announcement when we do our live discussion as we talk all things Big 12 and college football just in general. It's a lot of news out there. Hopefully everyone is remaining safe. Those of you who have children, whatever is in the best interest for you guys and your kids returning to school. Hopefully everybody is in good health and spirits. Remember to subscribe. It helps us out. It helps us grow this platform. I'm pleased with the little bit of growth we've had, the uptick we've had in the off season with no real football going on. But we want to do this for you guys and continue to grow this channel. Trent, thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys, as y'all know, horns always up. Thank you.